Tonight is a special night, and before we begin our induction ceremony, we would like to take a moment to recognize all of our past Hall of Fame laureates. We have an exciting evening planned. The Dothan Business Hall of Fame was established in May of 2011 by the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce and the Dothan Area Young Professionals. The Hall of Fame's mission is to pay recognition to local business leaders who have made an impact on the community by promoting the free enterprise system of entrepreneurship. To honor those individuals who have spent a lifetime demonstrating civic leadership, philanthropy, and humanitarianism toward their fellow citizens. The Hall of Fame plaques honoring the laureates are located in a prominent location in the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce headquarters, where they may be seen by chamber members, prospective members, industrial prospects, visitors, and the general public. This year's laureates were added to the wall this afternoon, so we invite you to go by the chamber to view the wall.
Welcome. I'm Michelle Enfinger, Chair of the Dothan Area Young Professionals. The Dothan Area Young Professionals are honored to have been asked to partner with the Chamber for the Business Hall of Fame Recognition Program. With a mission to enrich our community by uniting and developing young professionals, the Dothan Area Young Professionals feel that being a part of this program not only enhances our objective, but also gives us opportunity to further support programs and philanthropic activities. Thanks.
We now move to the reason that we are all here this evening, and that's to honor 4 outstanding business leaders. Our first laureate, as she puts it, is a living example of what can happen when you don't look at where you are, but look instead what you want to become. She is an Alabama black belt native, born in Myrtlewood and raised poor as dirt in Mobile. She received a scholarship to attend Alabama State University, where she earned her undergraduate degree and then graduated with her master's degree from the Ohio State University in 1974. In August that same year, one day after she married Donald Tribue, the newlyweds arrived in Dothan with everything they owned in a gold Le Mans so that he could begin his new job as a teacher and coach at Carver Junior High that Monday. 3 weeks later, she was hired as a social worker in Children's Protective Services by the Houston County Department of Pensions and Security, where 3 years later, in 1977, she was promoted to supervisor. In 1983, she was again promoted to supervisor of the supervisors for protective services for children and adults. Several years later, feeling burned out by the long hours of frustration, dealing with sad cases of child abuse and neglect, she longed for another career path. Following a period of fervent prayer, she recalls that one day out of the blue, Al Searcy, an agency manager with State Farm Insurance, called offering her a career opportunity. She became State Farm's first African-American agent in the Wiregrass and opened her own agency January the 1st, 1988, in a one-room office downtown. Velma J. Tribue.
Velma Tribue is living example of what can happen when you don't look at where you are, but look instead at what you can become. Velma admits she grew up poor as dirt in Mobile. In 1974, she and husband Donald Tribue, well, they were newlyweds at the time, arrived in Dothan, where Trib would teach and coach at Carver Junior High School. Velma got a job with Children's Protective Services. But barely 4 years later, she became the area's first African-American State Farm insurance agent. With a strong work ethic and lots of determination, Velma became successful because she puts clients first. She still does. 30 years later, Velma Tribue has received State Farm's Legion of Honor, Silver Scroll, and Golden Triangle awards for meeting the company's goals and service. Not a day goes by that Velma doesn't give back to us. Her service includes the Alabama A&M University Board of Trustees and Alabama Humanities Foundation. In 2008, she became the first minority woman to serve as chairman of the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce. Velma spent over 20 years teaching adult Sunday school and children's vacation Bible school at First Missionary Baptist Church, where she remains a member. Today, Velma Tribute lives by her mother's words from decades ago. You can do anything and be anybody you want to be. Put God first, work hard, and everything else will fall into place. Velma Tribute may have grown up poor as dirt, but she's rich in heart, drive, and love for the Dothan area. And that's why she's in the 2018 induction class of the Business Hall of Fame.
Well, Velma is an American success story. She started life in poverty, worked hard, got a great education, started her business. I think her mom taught her that it's not the circumstances what she's in, it's the direction where you're going. And education, the door that opened opportunities is education. And she believed it, and she worked it, and the grit and determination it took for her to get a master's degree at Ohio State University, she put into business, and she just has what it takes to succeed. Well, Velma is a leader's leader. We were on the board of the Chamber for 12 years together, and she worked her way up, became the Madam Chair, our boss, and when Velma holds a meeting, she has purpose, she has drive, she has goals and accountability, and when she's done, we are prepared to knock down that door and make that goal happen. So I don't know if she learned that from her husband, Coach Tribb, or she just naturally, but she understands that it takes goals and accountability to success, and she's done that her whole life.
When I think about Velma, I think about the best compliment that can be given to a leader, and that is that he or she is caring and is real. Velma Tribute is both. Velma, congratulations on this wonderful accomplishment. You are so deserving.
There are so many wonderful things you can say about Velma Tribute with regard to the honor she's receiving tonight. Velma, my message to you tonight is just keep on being the wonderful, motivational, inspirational Velma Tribute that you are. You speak the truth, you seek the truth, and you value the opinion of everyone in the room, regardless of who they are, where they come from, what they look like, it doesn't matter. You listen, you reflect, and when you speak, we all need to listen. I'm honored to be your colleague, and I'm honored to be your friend.
I just want to tell Velma that as mayor and now chairman of the school board, what an incredible difference you've made in my life and in our community. Your counsel has been so valuable. I'm able to call you on difficult issues, and not only can we discuss it, but you come up with solutions. We are so proud. You are one of the reasons that Dothan is such an incredible place to live. Congratulations, Velma. We love you. Woo!
Good evening. I'm excited. I am really excited. I am so happy to be here tonight. On the grounds of the Museum of Art, there is a statue of Joseph. Etched on that statue are these words: "For I heard them say, let us go to Dothan." Over in the place called Dothan, there are some good people, people of vision, people who love and care about one another. Over in Dothan, there are opportunities. It's a place that will allow you to grow to your full potential. You can go as high as your dreams and your hard work will take you. Over in Dothan, you determine your destiny. You decide your future. You are the master of your fate. I am so glad that Coach Tribb and I heard and heeded the call to go to Dothan, because in this place, our lives have been intricately engineered by the hands of God, and we have experienced an abundant overflow of His awesome blessings in this place called Dothan. To the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce and its awesome staff, and to the Dothan Area Young Professionals, thank you for extending me this great honor. To be recognized among the great laureates listed in the Dothan Business Hall of Fame is an honor that I will cherish for the rest of my life. I truly thank you. To my friend, and to one of Dothan's brightest lights, Mike Smith, thank you. Mike has a gift. He has that innate ability to see in others what they sometimes do not see in themselves. I did not see tonight, but Mike did. So Mike, thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for all of your support and all that you have done to make this beautiful night possible. To my wonderful, beautiful, awesome, incredible family. Now, I'm going to take a few minutes because I want my Dothan family to see my biological family and in-law family and all of them. So I want all of my family members who have traveled here from out of town, would you please stand up, because I want Dothan to see how good you look. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have my oldest brother here with his wife, Juanita, from Mobile, my little handsome brother here from North Carolina. Normally, my brother Earl from North Carolina, his wife is accompanying him, but tonight she is traveling to Chicago because Earl's grandson will be graduating from boot camp in Chicago tomorrow morning, and Michelle is there. Also have my brother-in-law, Arthur and Modest from Quincy, Florida, my brother-in-law and Tribb's other sister, Vivian and Jimmy from Atlanta, Georgia, and my girlfriend, Sue, over there. We've adopted her into the family. As a matter of fact, Sue was my first client when I started with State Farm. She traveled down from Montgomery, sat at my dining room table, and I wrote my first State Farm insurance policy. I want to also acknowledge my team members, Beneva and April back there, thank you so much. Two good Christian young ladies. It's a blessing to work with Christians on a daily basis. It really makes a difference in your workplace. I want to also do a shout out, Barbara and Linda, you got me, Norma, thank you. Shout out to my Dothan sisters, Barbara, Linda, and Norma. I appreciate them so much. And also a shout out to my sisters of Alpha, Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. To my church family, and especially to my clients. Thank you so much for your support over the years. It is because of your support that I stand here tonight. And I want you to know, with everything that is within me, I thank you. I appreciate the fact that you allow us to take care of your insurance needs on a daily basis. And to my biggest supporter, Coach Tribb. No one builds a business without a strong support system. On this journey, Tribb has never wavered in his support, whether it's my community work or my State Farm work. Tribb is always there, encouraging me, pushing me, assuring me, telling me, babe, you can do this. Babe, you can do this. He had, and in the early days and throughout my career, he's always provided those much-needed hugs right at the right time. So, Tribb, thank you. Thank you for always being there and being the strong man that you have been and continue to be. As reflected in the video, and if you've had a chance to read my bio, then you know I grew up in poverty. But I was blessed to have a mother who encouraged me to look beyond where we were and create the world that I desired. In essence, she taught me how to dream. She also taught me that if I would put God first and work hard, that I could do anything that I wanted to do and be anybody I wanted to be. I took her advice to heart, and I forged ahead. When I started with State Farm, I had a dream, and State Farm gave me the opportunity to pursue that dream. To say that building a business has been difficult is an understatement, but I must admit that the rewards have far outweighed the struggles. I knew that it was prayer that had brought me to State Farm, and I knew that it would be prayer and hard work that would get me through. I can recall in the early days, I spent many nights sitting in my clients' living rooms or at their kitchen tables writing insurance. Other nights when I didn't have appointments, I was in my office working the phone, doing what's called cold calling. I had no clients, so I had to build a clientele. I would take the city directory, and I would go through the various neighborhoods, and I would make call after call after call. Many times experiencing rejection, which was hard, very hard, but I kept calling. I kept calling because I read somewhere that successful people do what unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. For me, meeting the needs of my clients is more than a profession, it is a ministry. We're there to pray with them and for them, sometimes just to provide a listening ear, to celebrate the good times, but also be there to walk with them through the difficult times in their lives. After all, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. My career with State Farm has been and continues to be an incredible walk of faith. Early in my career, the naysayers said I would not last 6 months. But what the naysayers didn't know was I had a talk with my father. And my father had told me that if I would step out on faith, he promised me that he would take me places that I had never seen and allow me to do things that I could only imagine. So, when I stood on the streets of Paris and viewed the awesome structure of the Eiffel Tower, when I toured the ruins of Pompeii and when I explored the crumbling walls of the Roman Empire, when I leaned back to view the artistic work of Michelangelo in the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and when I experienced the curious smile of the Mona Lisa as she hung in the Louvre, when I rode the London Eye and experienced the incredible panoramic view of England and then saw Big Ben ticking away in the distance, when I walked the pink sandy beaches of Bermuda, and when I felt the awesome power of the waves off the shores of Maui, when I experienced all of these things, all I could do was look up toward heaven and say, Father, you kept your promise. Master, you kept your word. I declare to you tonight that if God will do all of these things for a little black country girl from the backwoods of Marengo County, then surely he'll do the same thing for you. So step out on your dream. Put God first, work hard, and never, ever give up. Thank you again for this incredible honor.
Taco, you've got your work cut out for you. Whew. I got to let the chills calm down on me. Our next laureate was born in Birmingham, Alabama, the only son of Clarence and Dorothy Nayland. He is a graduate of Sanford University and began his career with the Birmingham accounting firm Ernst & Ernst in 1969. He went on to obtain his CPA certificate, and then he met the lovely Kay Gentle. They married in 1973, and in 1976 moved to Jasper, Alabama, when he took a job with Bankhead Mining Company. In 1986, the couple decided to see what other options were available outside of Jasper. Knowing they wanted to remain in Alabama, they began looking for opportunities. After touring various cities and states, looking at different franchise choices, they learned of the construction of Wiregrass Common Mall. It was there that Taco Bell Corporation was looking for someone to purchase their franchise. They took a leap of faith and headed to Southeast Alabama. The first Taco Bell in the Wiregrass opened in August of 1986 as part of Wiregrass Commons Mall. The food court followed, and by 1989, the Taco Bell on the Ross Clark Circle. Over the next several years, business grew and expanded to other cities in the Wiregrass, including Daleville and Enterprise. This gentleman has worked hard not only building a successful business, but inspiring future business leaders. He can often be heard speaking to the leadership classes at Troy University, encouraging them through lessons he's learned in his life, including while he was running a marathon. C. Charles Nayland, Jr.
C. Charles Nayland Jr. is the All-American success story. Charles graduated high school in the Birmingham area, attended Sanford University, became a CPA, and worked for a mining company. But after all that education and hard work, Charles gave up his career to make tacos and burritos. By 1986, he had married Kay, and together they wanted more in life than a 9-to-5 job. So they came to Dothan, and when Wiregrass Commons Mall opened, they became franchisees of Taco Bell. BBG Specialty Foods grew and became a leader in quality fast food service. BBG, blessed by God. Charles' faith is more important to him than the restaurant business by far. He recently had the honor of serving as executive team leader for the Wiregrass Area Will Graham celebration. He's a 30-year member of the Church of the Nativity, a small group leader with Wiregrass Church, and leads a weekly men's Bible study through CrossFit Embrace. With Charles, we hear, is the oldest member. He didn't even begin CrossFit until 63. Charles is really into fitness. A 20-year member of Team Taco, the race team for the Army 10 Milers. Race held annually in Washington, D.C. It is his faith and determination that helped Charles Nayland beat cancer not once, but twice. From his upbringing to a successful business career to community service, Charles Nayland is a leader. Charles serves on various boards and committees as well as working to serve others, but he doesn't want to be remembered for all the stuff he has done, but instead as a child of God. Charles Nayland, a man among men, and among the latest class of inductees into the Business Hall of Fame.
Why is my dad so special? God, there's just a long list of reasons why he's so special. He is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He'll give you the shirt off his back. He will offer you a ride. He will do anything in the world for you. He's just a great all-around guy. He's one of those, like, he's not afraid to talk to anybody. He can talk to anybody. I think his community involvement is so important is because he feels it's important to be involved in the community, whether it be part of the Business Council of Alabama. That helps the entire state of Alabama. Whether it be Friends of Fort Rucker, which he helped found, that helps him to be able to reach out to those at Fort Rucker, and that's part of the Wiregrass and part of his home. And His parents have always instilled in him an importance of giving back to the community and being involved in the community, whether it be sitting on a board or whether it be, you know, in charge of an event like the Will Graham celebration. He loves to be involved in the community. He loves to be able to help people in the community. My dad is not afraid to share his faith. Faith is a huge, important part of who he is and where he comes from. He grew up Catholic and then became an Episcopalian, and now he and my mom are heavily involved in Wiregrass Church. And he's always instilled in us that it doesn't matter what people think or how, you know, it doesn't matter the small things because Jesus loves you. And so he will share his gospel, he will share his testimony. He's not afraid to go out into the community. He wears his cross proudly on his blazer all the time, as I'm sure you know. My mom visited my brother when my brother was living in the Middle East. And as you know, the Middle East is a very heavily Muslim country, and they do not wear their faith proudly as we do in the United States. And so my brother told him, you might want to take that off your jacket, or you might not. He said, no, this is who I am. I only want to be remembered as a child of God. My dad has taught me about life is perseverance. He loves to quote Winston Churchill, never give up, never give up, never give up. Whether it be auditioning for a role, you know, that I might not get, never give up, keep trying, Meredith, you'll get it someday. Both my parents have always wanted us to be well-rounded, and they have taken us on wonderful vacations so that we can experience things and be able to see the world and know that we're not just, you know, two kids from Alabama, that there's a great big world out there and to be able to experience it. I love the way my dad pours into Henry and pours the gospel into Henry and wants him to be able to experience some of the things that I experienced as a child. They have a great relationship, and George is getting old enough now that he can tag along and experience those things as well. And it's funny how God opens doors and windows and things for you that they just happen to be building the mall, and they needed someone to purchase the Taco Bell franchise. So we started in August 1986, the very first Taco Bell at Wiregrass Commons Mall. And so with my mom's restaurant experience and my dad's business sense, they're like, well, let's see what we can do. And you know, here we are 32 years later, and we've grown and we've downsized, and you know, Taco Bell is going strong, and we're very, very happy with the way things have turned out. But again, with that perseverance that they've both had, that they're able to get to where they are today with a lot of hard work and dedication and not sacrificing their morals and their faith. Their company is BBG Specialty Foods. And he said, our lives are so blessed by God that we want to be able to honor Him. And so my parents lived their life in an honorable way to the Lord. And so BBG stands for Blessed by God, because they wanted to honor the Lord on how He has blessed their lives and our lives so much. Daddy, you think you don't deserve this, but you do. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and you have honored God in everything that you have done. This is your night to shine, and I want you to truly enjoy this moment and take it in, because we love you so much.
Well, I was going to start off by saying, you know, the name of our company that holds our Taco Bell franchises is BBG Specialty Foods, and tell you what that stands for, but y'all have heard that 2 or 3 times already. I'll tell you one more time, though. It stands for Blessed by God. I am like the most blessed guy on the planet. The honor tonight is one of those blessings. The video is pretty cool. Meredith, Thanks for making your dad cry. Jeez. Although I don't want this to be about me at all, I have a few things I want to say. Several years ago, I headed up a group that was working to change the estate tax laws. I gave a speech at the National Press Club in D.C. and was talking about how we had built our business. And I said I had gotten started and became successful because of the inheritance I got. Some of the liberals that were sitting in the audience had these looks on their faces like, I knew it, another rich kid makes good with Papa's money. Then I told them about my inheritance. It wasn't money, because my folks didn't have any. It was the values they passed on to me. Values like honesty, integrity, hard work, always keeping your word. So for my inheritance that served me well, I got to thank my parents, Clarence and Dorothy Nayland. They're probably smiling tonight. But you know, if I've got time to do anything other than KFC and Taco Bell, it's because my business partner takes up the slack. Sometimes it's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10 or 100-0. My business partner is also my life partner. This December will be 45 years. And absolutely, kind of thinking it might last. My incredible wife, mother to our children, community volunteer, and leader in her own right, Kay Nayland, sitting right there. If I had it to do all over again, I'd do it all over again with you. Except I'd tell you how much I love you and appreciate you more often than I do. Now, our sweet daughter, Meredith. What a great job you did with this, Meredith. God bless you twice. Meredith and her husband, Dave, they're also parents to our two grandsons, Henry and George. Meredith has got the sweet spirit of her mom, and maybe a little bit of that never give up attitude of her dad. She and I ran the Army 10-miler in Washington a few years ago. It was her first. It was my 15th or 16th. When we got back home, someone asked me about how I did in the race. I told them it was my worst time ever. 4 minutes per mile slower than the year before. But on the other hand, it was my best time ever because I ran with Meredith all the way. We came across the finish line together. Hugging, high-fiving, kissing, it was awesome. And our son, Charles III, and his sweet wife, Irabel Esperanza Lopez Estrada Nayland. We just call her Erie for short. They live in D.C. Charles and I have run in a lot of races. I've shared thousands of miles on bicycles with him all over the world. One of the most exciting was bicycling in the French Alps nearly 20 years ago. After college, Charles took a job in Doha, Qatar, working for his alma mater, Georgetown, and worked there for 10 years. That was where he met this sweet, beautiful, intelligent diplomat assigned to the Costa Rican embassy. They got married 4 years ago. We're glad they're back from that area of the world. I think children are the legacy you leave the world. I think Charles and Kay Nayland have a pretty darn good legacy. Now as to why I'm standing up here tonight. I've heard it said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That number could be anything. The point is that the characteristics of the people you hang out with tend to rub off on you. In my case, it's a lot more than 5 that have rubbed off on me. I purposely invited folks tonight that have had an influence on who I am. The folks that have made my average what it is, brought it way up for me. I'm standing here in large measure because of each one of them and many of you whose seats I didn't pay for. Let me briefly comment on some of these folks. I've got my two sisters with me tonight and their husbands. And notwithstanding the fighting, name-calling, hair-pulling, and all that stuff we did growing up, they have influenced my life in a positive sort of way. And their spouses, too. Dorothy Lyles, her husband Dan, Barbara Dre, and her husband Mike. Jack Hawkins. I didn't have to pay for his seat either. He came with the Troy table. I've learned a lot of leadership lessons from him by serving on Troy's Board of Trustees for 15 years. My church small group is here tonight. Sib and Terry Turner, Charles and Susie Beverly, Caroline Offer, John and Holly Hammer. I've learned a lot from each one of them. Just a couple of quick examples. Terry Turner faced cancer in 2016 with a diagnosis just 6 months before their youngest daughter's wedding. So what'd she do? She looked cancer straight in the eye and said, "Cancer, you picked the wrong gal." She beat it. Charles Beverly, diagnosed with Parkinson's in his 40s and had to walk away from a very successful medical practice. Charles taught me more than a semester or two's worth about courage, bravery, and not giving up. My friends from my nearly 25-year involvement with the Business Council of Alabama are here. Mark Colson, Billy Canary. Billy, a co-conspirator of sorts with daughter Meredith on nominating me for this honor. Through my work with the BCA and Mark and Billy, I've learned we all have an obligation to help make Alabama a better state for all of its citizens. And making our state better involves much more than just electing pro-business people to the legislature, more than just passing pro-business legislation. Think about education. We do a lot with education now. Think about our infrastructure, improving our infrastructure, among other things. Landon and Keisha Brazel are here. They own CrossFit Embrace and Orange Theory Fitness. They've taken me to the next level with my fitness. Saw a picture there of me and Charles Beverly doing a handstand against the wall. That was when I was 62 years old. That was 7 years ago. I've seen, though, how they put God first in everything they do in their lives. If you go to CrossFit Embrace, you just may be circling up and praying as a group. By the way, Landon competed in the International CrossFit Games a few weeks ago in Madison, Wisconsin. He is one of the fittest men on the planet. And who does he give credit to? Landon, my kind of guy. Sonny Moore and his wife Celia. Sonny spent over 30 years in the Army serving as a chaplain. He's a great American. He taught me a lot about what friends do for friends. Sonny married our daughter Meredith and husband Dave. He flew to Costa Rica at his own expense, married Charles in Erie. What friends do for friends, just out of love. David and Karen Jackson, not wanting any recognition for themselves, quietly doing the Lord's work for their church and their community. What does love require of me? Love God, love your neighbor. That's what they do. Mary Jo Woodham. This lady has many gifts. I could write a book on what I've learned from her about hospitality and being a friend. Adam and Monica Roberson. Adam's the lead pastor at Wiregrass Church. Adam and I have been getting together for lunch every month for the last couple of years, maybe longer. He says he's trying to learn from me. Now here's a little secret. Don't let Adam know this. I'm learning more from him than he is from me. Gail Gilmore and her husband Teddy, Tanya Mugler and her husband Byron. Gail's worked for us for nearly 30 years. Tanya going on 13. I've learned a lot about hard work, determination, a never give up attitude from these incredible ladies. Someone whose seat I didn't pay for and didn't realize she'd be here until this morning. I may embarrass her, I hope not. I saw her husband this morning at CrossFit and realized they were going to be here tonight. Amy Edge. This lady taught me by example years ago that you should pray for people right where they are. Even if it's in a CrossFit box, as we call it, or an Orange Theory studio, or on the street. I put it to practice a couple of weeks ago at a Business Council Conference, a newly elected member of the House came up, introduced herself to me at breakfast. We were talking, and she expressed some anxiety as a freshman legislator, and I said, well, just let me pray for you. And I did, right there by the sausage and the bacon and the chow line. I learned that from Amy Edge. And lastly, Charles Lewis, who gave our invocation this evening. Got to know Charles when I was working with the Will Graham event last year. Charles and I started having lunch together periodically. You see, I've had this racial divide in our country on my heart for some time, and I wanted to talk about it with him. Last summer, we got an invitation to consider a trip to the Holy Land hosted by Charles Lewis. I thought this would just be an awesome way to get to know Charles and some members of his congregation, maybe to begin to understand through conversation more about this divide. We signed up, told Charles that although I was baptized as a baby, I've always had it in the back of my mind that if I ever made it to the Holy Land, I wanted to be baptized in the Jordan River. Would you consider doing that for someone on the trip who is not a member of your church? On January 27, 2018, at 11:15 in the morning, I was baptized in the Jordan River by the Reverend W. Charles Lewis. And trust me, River Jordan is chilly and cold. There were only 11 in our group. 9 had black skin. And here's some of what I told our group that night at dinner as we were unpackaging everything that happened that day. I told them, I was raised in a racially prejudiced Birmingham. I remember marches. I remember Bull Connor. I remember police dogs. I remember my grandfather using the N-word. I remember my parents using the N-word. And I said, I'm ashamed to admit to you that in years past, I used the N-word. So this baptism, as I was taken down underwater, became a final death to me of racial prejudice. Coming up out of the water with a new life and a new love of all God's children, regardless of the color of their skin. Some tears that night as I shared, and I thought that was the end of my story. But then Charles Lewis says, Charles, I got to tell you in case something. You're not supposed to be here. It's only by God's divine providence that you're with us on this trip. Y'all were not supposed to have been invited. And I'm thinking, well, this is just kind of a strange thing to be saying. Then he goes on to say we were invited by mistake. They had mistakenly used the name and address list of those involved with the Will Graham event, which had our names on it. And he went on to say we were probably like the second couple to respond. And when the church secretary got our response, Dr. Lewis was immediately told that the Naylands had responded affirmatively, but they were invited in error. To which Charles Lewis probably said something like, so what? They're coming. And we did. And it changed our lives. I cannot imagine touring the Holy Land for the first time as we did with any other group than the one we were with from Dothan Community Church. This was clearly a God thing. As we like to say in our church small group, God's fingerprints. But in this case, it was big old handprints. Folks, the racial divide is real, but with God, all things are possible, including racial unity, bridging that divide. But this needs all of us. So join me, others in our community, to seek ways to make that happen. So now Kay's sitting there and kind of giving me this sign. Remember what I said at the beginning. We're all the average of the 5 people or more we spend the most time with. Thanks to my guests and others of you in attendance, we spend the most time with. Thanks to everyone for helping to bring my average way up. You've also taught me how to be more Christ-like in a broken world through spending time with our Heavenly Father in prayer, Bible study, among other things. I also said at the beginning I didn't want this to be about me. I'm not the one to be honored. It's all about those that have brought my average up. It's about them and Him. But thank you for the honor. The goal in life really ain't about recognition. My goal in life ain't about recognition for anything I do. You've seen the video. You heard my sweet daughter, Meredith, talk about her dad. Sure, I've done a lot of things over the years. I've gotten awards and recognition along the way. Now, if you've dozed off from what I've said to this point, wake up, because here comes the punchline. Here comes the punchline. The only thing, the most important thing you need to know and to remember about me is that I'm a child of God who's right with God. Nothing else really matters, does it? God bless you. Thanks for listening.
Our next laureate is the 6th of 15 children and grew up in Beulah, Alabama. He is a 1962 graduate of Greene County Training School and later received a bachelor's degree in agronomy and soils with a double minor in chemistry and mathematics from Alabama A&M University. He received his master's degree in agriculture with a minor in plant physiology from the University of Florida in 1974. He later completed his postmaster's work in 1979 at Auburn University. This gentleman's business career started as an assistant county agent in Houston County in 1966 under the leadership of Mr. Allen Matthews. He worked with area 4-H clubs and row crop responsibilities for minorities. He was later assigned to row crops and swine production for all of Houston County. In addition to those assignments, he later assumed the responsibility of home horticulture. In 1986, he became the first African-American coordinator for the Houston County Extension System following Mr. Matthews' retirement. Through weekly news articles and television appearances, he became widely known throughout the tri-state area, addressing issues homeowners and farmers were facing. He was a frequent guest contributing farming information on the Gene Reagan Noon Farm Report and on the Betty Gott and Ann Varnum morning shows on the CBS affiliate WTVY. Rayfield Vester.
It's only fitting that Rayfield Vester was born on Christmas Day, because he's brought a lot of joy to a lot of lives. His education carried him to several colleges and universities, including the University of Florida and Auburn. Rayfield's degrees are agronomy and soil, chemistry, and mathematics. Rayfield began his career as Houston County's assistant county agent. In 1986, he made history as the first African-American coordinator for the Houston County Extension System. Rayfield appears regularly on WTVY, and nobody would argue he's among the best-known people in the wiregrass. In 2001, he retired from Auburn University's Cooperative Extension System. But we all soon found out Rayfield Vester was anything but retired. He was instrumental in establishing the Dothan Area Botanical Gardens and the Houston County Master Gardeners Program. Rayfield Vester has so many firsts. First African-American chairman of the March of Dimes Board of Directors. First African-American to serve as president of the National Peanut Festival. Oh, by the way, he's been serving the festival for 50 years. He was the first African American coordinator for the Alabama Cooperative Extension Program, former president of the Houston Boys Club, a Dothan Rotary Club member, and chairperson of the committee responsible for erecting the statue of Dr. George Washington Carver on the grounds of the Peanut Festival. He's an ordained deacon of First Missionary Baptist Church and has been married to his wife Jacqueline for 48 years. Rayfield Vester, thank you, and welcome to your rightful place in the Business Hall of Fame.
Rayfield Vester is really a go-getter. He doesn't mind starting a project. The only thing about starting a project is he's the one who's determined to finish the project. And a lot of people get burned out early. Not Rayfield. He's like the Energizer Bunny. Well, he's much more than just a business person. He is a community leader. He does well in all aspects of business. He's changed careers and he's succeeded in every career, as I understand it, that he's tried. So to me, that's a win-win situation. I never even thought about Rayfield being African American or that made any difference. I just thought about him as my friend. And even though that's probably good, he was the first African American, they said, to be the Houston County Extension System head after Allen Matthews. They call it Alabama Extension now, Cooperative Extension. I never thought about that. However, if it appeals to other people, that's good. But to me, Rayfield, no matter what color he is, he would have done the same. You know, Rayfield, as I said earlier, is a leader. I think he's inspired both older people and younger people to get involved with the community. He has 3 sons, and I feel like they're my godchildren. Rayfield and his wife have been married a number of years and had so far not had children. He was talking about his nieces and his nephews, and one day I said, Rayfield, don't you and Edith want to have any children? And he told me they hadn't been able to have any. So I had him to come back to my office after we had done an interview on my program, and I told him he needed to drop out of some of these activities. I mean, he had something every night, spend some quality time with his wife, and I started praying. Then his first son, Brian, was born, and then Nicholas, all the way down the line. So I call his children my godchildren. Well, you know, Rayfield worked really well with Gene Reagan, our wonderful farm director, and that was important to our farmers because he tested the very best fertilizers, weed killers, whatever it was to help the farmer. But he did so much for homeowners too. In fact, Rayfield would go like a doctor, make house calls, which is an unheard of thing now, and he would check out what was going on with someone's plant, or tell me the first time about basket worms in this lady's yard. One day, some Maddie who was with a neighborhood watch pulled a gun on him. And here Rayfield never went anywhere without his suit and tie. He was always immaculately dressed. And I can imagine the man thinking he was a burglar or something. But anyway, he came back the next time to do the interview with me, told me he got scared. The man threatened to shoot him. It so happened that that particular day we were doing the interview in my kitchen set. So he always brought show and tell, if it was worms or lizards or whatever, and he would always bring that to show me. And we were standing there doing the interview, and one of our lights burst, and it sounded like a shotgun. I don't know which one was the most afraid, me or Rayfield. So yes, Rayfield meant a lot to both the farming community and of course to people who had gardens at home or shrubbery. If it grew green, he checked on it. Rayfield, I want to thank you for being a part of my life. I know that you've done so much for the community, but you've been a lot to me personally too. I feel so involved in your life. Edith is a wonderful wife, and your children, well, they're just real special young men, and I appreciate that so much. I want you to know that I appreciate everything you've done for the community. I congratulate you. But more than anything, Rayfield, I want you to know that I love you, and I'm so glad you're my friend.
Good evening. Do I need to act like a good Rotarian or not? And in Rotary Club, I always tell people when I invite them as a guest, it's not the starting time that's important, it's the quitting time that's counting. So I was just looking at my watch, and my wife told me, she said, as I was trying to prepare for this, she said, "No, you don't need all that. Just a couple notes." And I see everyone come up here with all these gigantic folders and all that. And I said, I have to follow all of that? Because when Mrs. Vaughn said that I wore a necktie, I wore it everywhere. In the soybean field, peanut fields, in a hog pen, wherever. I wore a necktie. And when I quit, not quit, but retired from Extension, I pulled the necktie off. I said, it feels good. So, to get back up to speak, I hadn't spoken to a group in a long time. So I'm gonna just hit a few high points so we can get out a little bit earlier than you all thought. To the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce and also the Dothan Area Young Professionals, I want to thank you all for selecting me to be a part of this particular Business Hall of Fame. It is an honor, a big honor. I told my niece as she was preparing to select me, I said, I don't need any honors. And she went ahead again with a co-conspirator. And they got together and they sent in some information. And so I'm just enjoying myself being retired. And I get this call from a certain lady from the chamber. Say, you have been selected. No, my niece told me, I think. Say, you have been selected. I said, no, you kidding. And so here I am. So this is what you get. I thank God for being able to be here to at least speak to you all and to tell you all a little bit about me coming up. Mrs. Tribune stole some of my thunder. I always say, when people say, where are you from? I say, I'm from Greene County, a good place to be from. And I said that we could not afford the OR room poor. We were poor. I also tell people that my family invented the term fast food. I heard it came later, but my mother cooked and placed on the table, it was gone fast. So fast food. You can imagine being around 15 children, 15 of us, and it was a great thing to have. We had to bring in our own daylight. We stayed so far back in the country. But somehow, my dad got us out to school after cotton picking time. Because they asked me, said, what did your dad do? I said, he grew cotton pickers. And well, so much for that. But I am from a large family, and I kept telling the family each time we have a family reunion, I said, we have been fortunate. Up until this year, all of us was living, and we saw each other one time in one place once in our lifetime. And I planned that family reunion after my father almost got killed. And all of us made it, and it was a great occasion. And that was that one picture you saw. It was the family reunion that all of us was at. So I want to thank Deborah Pearson, and I'm going to call her name, from Wolf, for turning in my name, and also the co-conspirator. But the co-conspirator told me not to prepare any notes that much. So, but it is an honor to receive this honor. But I'd like to talk about some people that affected my life here in Dothan. But to do that, I have to go back to Alabama A&M. I remember one in 1964, I got sick, and it was bleeding ulcer, and I was up in the dorm, and I blacked out. So when I finally got to the hospital, and the doctor whispered to me after he had did a cut down in my leg and started giving me some fluid, he said, "You almost didn't make it." I said to myself, what a thing for this man to tell me. And also in that hospital, when I was in the hospital, a couple people died from strokes in the room because I was in a ward up in Huntsville. And I had never been around anyone dead in my life, not that close up in person. But I couldn't get excited because I had bleeding ulcers. And I had to turn my attention to God. So I made it through that. And there was a lady at Alabama A&M named Mrs. Susie Dumas. She was from Dothan. Her husband was the Negro County agent here. And he had retired. So she was there, and she knew I was finishing school. So she called trying to get in touch with us. But they have to understand, phone, sometimes you be on one phone in the neighborhood and all this. So I finally heard that this lady from A&M was trying to get in touch with me. So I finally called her and found out what it was all about. It was about coming to Dothan, seeing whether or not I wanted a job here. Well, a few years before, I had a brother to come here. He was in the Air Force, and when he got out, he worked at Hayes Aircraft for a couple of years. And so I had been to Dothan, so before I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. And I liked Dothan okay. Well, main thing, I wanted a job then. So I came here to interview with Mr. Allen Matthews. And there's a lot of connection. Allen Matthews was over in Greene County for a while, and he came down here. So I came down here to interview, and at the office, it was on Saturday morning when people really worked. I came into where I call the front of the building. He came in the back of the building. He was waiting on me on one side. I'm waiting on him on the other side. And it took us about 30 minutes to find each other. But eventually we got together. And so that was one connection. The next connection was, in that office, there was a part-time secretary position. And that was a lady that had graduated from high school, and she applied for that position, and she got it. So when she came to the office, somehow my eyes started roaming. And I decided that maybe there's a chance. And so eventually we got married, and then she could no longer work there. She worked for GTE, and funny thing was, when I came to Dothan to visit my brother, I helped to lay the lines for GTE back at the old ice house, laid the lines heading to that particular building. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my family. Sitting at the table here, our 3 sons and our Cornelius, he's a fireman from over near Atlanta right now, and he started his work over in York, Alabama, and he was the youngest, first minority in Southeast Alabama paid fire chief. And so he's our godson. So, and then there's Deborah sitting at the table also. She's smiling, but she's going to get it after all this. Anyway, right quickly. Ms. Varman and I went way back. Before her, Betty Goff was there. I had a few programs with her. But after Ms. Varman came in, I had a monthly program on her segment. And then also I had a monthly program with Gene Reagan. But some people that helped me mold my life after I came to Dothan, Willie James Durrell, and there's 2 Willie Durrells, and the Willie Durrell that I had a boss last few years at the extension office. He's sitting over here. Willie J. Frazier, a VOAG teacher at Ashford, and Dr. James Smith at the building at Northview is named after. Jim Lawson. And we used to kid each other about racial things. We talk about race and stuff like this. Jim Lawson, Walter Moreland, Rufus Davis Sr., Clarence Slaughter, all of these, Power Bruden, all of these we had conversations that helped to mold me. And a lot of the things that we talked about was racial, how the different races can get together, what's good here, what's bad there, and all like that. And we never went away mad. And we joked about this. You joked about this all the time. Clarence Slaughter, Robert James, Hawk Houston Boys Club, and Carrie Kavanaugh at the National Peanut Festival. Peanut group, raise your hand. We got some peanut group from National Peanut Festival, Peanut Family. And same, our church family, First Missionary Baptist, those that are here, just raise your hand for me and for Velma too. And one trip with Alan Matthews before he retired jailed us to become really good, close friends. He thought I don't know where he thought I hated him. He thought I didn't want to get along with him, probably. But we went on a trip to a retirement. And on that trip, we talked about issues and stuff. And after we came back, we were the best of friends. Anyway, Miss Susan Doon recommended me for the job here. And let's see, Dr. Charles Lewis, raise your hand again over there. That's one of my 4-H's. He was in public speaking, coming up from Ashford. The Dothan Area Chamber has done a great job in our community. And while I worked with the chamber and while I was on the board, I enjoyed that experience. And I want to thank everyone that made this particular event possible and possible for me to be up here. And I don't know whether I'm going to thank my wife or not for me not having my good prepared notes like I wanted to. She said, no, you can't carry all that in there. It's too much. It's too big. So thank you all for being here. And I hope that little short speech, you all enjoyed it.
final laureate is an only child to Dr. Sam and Virginia Wainwright in Birmingham, Alabama. In his early years, he attended Lakeview Grammar School before transitioning to Swanee Military Academy. In 1950, he entered Vanderbilt University with the mindset that he would follow in his father's footsteps and pursue a degree in pre-med. A spark was ignited while home from college when he was working for U.S. Pipe and Foundry as an estimator, and he soon found himself interested in learning more about the creative world of engineering. In 1955, he married Kathleen Monroe, and they moved to the loveliest village on the plains. After his graduation from Alabama Polytechnic Institute in 1957, he began his career as a highway location engineer, developing plans for the Interstate 20 from Tuscaloosa to Meridian, Mississippi. In 1959, with two partners, the firm of Cagle, Jones, and Wainwright was formed. Hired by the city of Mobile, the company acquired Alabama's first FAA grant to build runways, taxiways, and ramps for the Mobile Municipal Airport. In 1960, this gentleman was asked by his friend O'Neill Ham to help him open an engineering and surveying office in Dothan. The new company was called Dixie Engineering. In 1961, the company became Lee, Wainwright, and Ham. During the early time, Dothan and Houston County began to consider moving the municipal airport to Napier Field. The Dothan Airport Authority hired him to put together the necessary planning to facilitate the relocation. Sam began work on the project while simultaneously completing the work at the Mobile Airport. In 1963, after completing the Mobile project, the Wainwright family made its last move, which was to Dothan. In 1965, Wainwright Engineering Company was formed. He continued as the airport engineer and assisted in numerous infrastructure projects in the city of Dothan. Sam Wainwright.
Sam Wainwright once dreamed of being a doctor, but he abandoned that idea 68 years ago and decided engineering is his passion. He spent the next few years in school, and Sam, already married to Kathleen, graduated from Alabama Polytechnic Institute, now Auburn University. Sam then helped develop plans for Interstate 20 and design runways for the Mobile Municipal Airport. Then he came to Dothan, joining friend O'Neill Ham and opening an engineering and surveying office here. Sam played a big part in designing the Dothan Airport on its present site, and in 1965, Wainwright Engineering Company was formed. At its peak, the company had 75 employees with branch offices in Montgomery and Birmingham. For 3 decades, Mr. Wainwright and staff were responsible for critical infrastructure projects, roads, drainage, water, and wastewater projects in the Southeast, and aviation projects across the U.S. In 1989, Barge Design Solutions purchased Wainwright Engineering Incorporated. Sam continues to serve the Barge Board of Directors as senior consultant. Mr. Wainwright is a charter member of the Board of Directors of the Alabama Engineering Hall of Fame and served as its first chairman. In the community, Sam is a lifelong member of the Presbyterian Church, a 55-year member of the Dothan Rotary Club, and since 1942 has been active in the Boy Scouts of America, earning the National Court of Honor Distinguished Eagle Award. Sam and Kathleen raised 3 sons who helped them acquire 3 wonderful daughters and 6 grandchildren. Sam Wainwright, without doubt, built his way to where he belongs, in the Business Hall of Fame.
So when I think of Sam, I am reminded of a verse in Colossians that reads, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as if working for the Lord." And Sam's peers will tell you he is a pioneer in his field, and he is widely respected and revered in that engineering world. His early work on the Dothan Airport has stood the test of time, and That airport has been an ongoing, important source of economic development activity for our Wiregrass region. For me, Sam's legacy will be his meaningful investment in people. Over his professional career, Sam invested in projects that will have a long-term impact on many, many people. He invested in young engineers and his peers. He invested in young people through his work with the Boy Scouts. He invested in his Rotary family and his church family and his friends and his family. Sam has been a consistent, quiet, wise force for good in our community and will be a lasting example of a man of great character. Of all his many attributes, his servant heart is probably the one that I respect the most about Sam, and it's the one that connected his family to my family years ago. So Sam, Lawrence Harris would be so proud of you tonight, and I am so tremendously honored to be here to celebrate you and your life's work, and on behalf of my dad and our family and all the many grateful families here tonight, congratulations and well done.
Well, this is, maybe I ought to come back next year. I work with numbers. Just talking is not my first thing. I do want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Dothan Area Young Professionals for selecting me to receive this honor. It is really an honor. I also want to thank Hope. She got me into this, bless her heart. I've known Hope all her life, and that's literal too. It's been all of her life. Her father, Lawrence Harris, was a real close friend of mine. He's the person primarily responsible for me getting involved in public activities that I participated in, namely the Engineering Board of Registration and the Environmental Management Commission, and working on those agencies. Also, I'd like to thank my family for showing up. They've all come a distance, and brought the boys have brought their wonderful wives, and I want to thank them in particular for the grandchildren they've brought to us. For more than 30 years, these young ladies they've continued a training program that Kitty started way back. And I want to thank them for that. However, I realize it's still a work in process. So, Kitty is my wife of 63 years. And that hand is for you, Kitty. She needs special recognition. She really does. Just think about all the events, the engineering events that she pretended she enjoyed. And all those family vacations traveling to another engineering meeting. And remember those afternoons, she would escape with me to romantically steal away to inspect a new sewage plant. She spent a lot of time in the engineering world, and she's got to have a medal for that. Kitty and I were very fortunate to find Dothan. It's a place we love, and we've raised our family, and we've called it home for 60 years. Kitty, you ask Kitty where she's from, she says, I'm from Birmingham, but I live in Dothan. You get outside of Dothan, and she's from Dothan, and she used to be from Birmingham, so it's a strange thing. You know, when an organization such as this asks someone as old as I am to come into it, they must be interested in history, ancient history. In my case, it is ancient history. Speaking of history, I just want to go back just a little bit and look at Dothan. I want to focus on Dothan. O'Neill Ham asked me to help him form a company here. We called it Dixie Engineering, and we went into business in 1960. I don't know, I know some of you remember O'Neill. He was a quarterback for Abbeville when they won a state championship. And he was also Houston County engineer for a while. Dale County engineer, Coffee County engineer. He loved the counties, so he made his rounds. But we started, as I said, in 1960. And I don't know, most of y'all can't remember back that far, but gas was 25 cents a gallon. You could buy a pickup truck for $2,000. I could equip a survey field party for $3,000 and charge $60 a day and still make money. A three-bedroom house in the Garden District was $14,000. A new phone service, when you moved here from out of town and you got a telephone service, you had to go on a party line. There was no, you couldn't get a direct line. You had to wait your turn. And, you know, in a couple of months, you'd get a straight line. When it rained, the phone system went out, just went off. It was nice. If you ate Sunday lunch, you went to the Houston Hotel, and it was formal. Coat, tie. There was no cap and iPhone, none of that. The circle, the Ross Clark Circle, had just been finished. Main Street and Oak Street were 2 lanes. And a lot of times traffic would get stopped because of a mule and wagon going down Main Street. The railroads had passenger service in Dothan. The airport served by Eastern Airlines, and it was located at the end of Choctaw Street, right in town, 3 miles from the courthouse. The location of the Dothan Airport was an issue at this time and was favored by the chamber. 3 of the chamber members, Sam Stevens, Parnell Lewis, and Eustace Bishop, became the founding members of the Dothan Houston County Airport Authority in 1962. They hired the firm of Lee, Wainwright, and Ham to plan and supervise construction of the new commercial aviation facility at Napier Field. The Dothan Regional Airport was opened in February 15th, 1965. I don't know how many of y'all were there for the opening, but a few maybe. Oh, the stories I could tell about that. However, I'm going to limit myself to one little story. Bear with me on it. At the end of each runway at an airport is what they call a clear zone. And in those clear zones, the objects must be taken out. Trees can't grow in there. You've got to remove the trees so that the airplanes can have a glide slope into the runways. Well, of course, removing trees, clearing trees means acquiring the right to do so from property owners adjacent to the airport. This always is a problem. After one of the court supervised negotiations, which I think they call it, well, I asked one of the enriched owners there that what he was going to do with the new money he had, and his answer was, "I'm going to buy fertilizer for the rest of my trees." That's the kind of situations we'd run into. I've got one more story, and this is about one of our clients. Federal Express in Memphis hired us to design and design and supervise construction for the parking ramps for the Federal Express sort building in Memphis. In 1977, they asked us to do the same type work for the new super hub in Memphis. At that time, their air fleet was 36 Falcons. They had, I think, 10 727s, and then they were getting in all the time DC-10s, which they were adopting for their program. They went from 14 Falcons to up to around 60 aircraft during the period of time we were working with them. We negotiated with them with Couch Construction Company. They went up there and built the sort building ramps and taxiways for us. Hayes Aircraft Corporation, George Lindholm then, got a contract to modify the 727 fleet that Federal had, to convert those aircraft from passenger to freight aircraft. So Dothan had a lot of influence in the beginning of Federal Express. It was very interesting work up there. Between the construction jobs that we had with Federal in Memphis, they asked us, our division in Montgomery, to help them plan and get acceptance for freight terminals in different airports around the country. This brings to mind another story. We had the job to prepare the display information, get the presentation for Mr. Fred Smith, who was the CEO of FedEx. We had to get the charts and the specifications and all for a new facility to be located at O'Hare Airport. And the presentation was going to be made to the Chicago Department of Aviation. We were running real tight on that job, and the night before, or the day before, we finished it up, bundled it up, packaged it up, put it on Federal Express for Mr. Smith in Chicago. Well, I imagine y'all can guess what happened. And I think the terminal manager in Memphis got chewed out real good because that package got lost. Nobody's ever seen it again. So. Finally, I'd like to thank the Chamber again and the young professionals. And I want to thank the Barge Company, who I sold out to almost 30 years ago. And they've kept me around, kept me out of trouble, and we've had a very good relationship. And I want to thank my friends that came tonight. This is, I'm going to finish up real quick. Several of my friends told me to leave it 5 minutes, so it's coming right quick. But I've got one little verse that I keep in my mind all the time, and some of you have heard it before, but I want to leave with this. It is my joy in life to find at every turning of the road a strong arm of comrade kind to help me with my load. And since I have no gold to give, and love alone must make amends, it is my prayer that while I live, God make me worthy of my friends. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Please join me once again in congratulating all of tonight's inductees. Before we close, we would like to ask that each of the laureates and their families to please remain at their tables immediately following the event for some quick pictures with our photographer. Also, one program at each table has a red dot on the back. The individual with the red dot is invited to take home the table centerpiece flowers. Thank you again for joining us at this annual event. Have a wonderful evening.